Hello my dear students, good morning to you all. So in my last class, I started explaining about elementary quantum mechanics. So in the previous session, we understood what is meant by quantum mechanics by knowing what is quantum chemistry, because we are studying this quantum mechanics which is completely a physics based topic in chemistry, that is in unit 1 chapter 1.1 in paper 6. So I just wanted to give you a brief introduction about quantum chemistry before understanding quantum mechanics. Okay. So as the name itself says, elementary quantum mechanics. So here in this topic we are going to understand how we are going to study the electronic transition or the properties of a molecule or a atom which is present in an element with the help of quantum mechanics, that is by using physics topics like Schrodinger wave equation or de Broglie's hypothesis. So all these are implemented or used to study the element in terms of its structure or properties or electronic transition. So that is what is the theme of elementary quantum mechanics. Okay. So in the introduction part, we understood what is the difference between classical mechanics and quantum mechanics, that is in classical mechanics the macroscopic objects are studied like planets or solar system or stars like that. But if we go to the subatomic sizes like atom or molecule or an element or electron, which is smallest part, to study the movement or the motion of very small objects or particles, it is very easiest for us to understand it in terms of quantum mechanics. Okay. So this is what the difference between classical mechanics and quantum mechanics. Classical mechanics is for macroscopic objects, whereas quantum mechanics for smallest subatomic size particles, we use quantum mechanics. Okay. And next in the introduction part, we understood what are the limitations of classical mechanics. Okay. So the limitations only led the platform for the emerge of or the development of quantum mechanics. So classical mechanics, as I said in my previous class, so it was formulated by Sir Isaac Newton and it obeyed only the macroscopic particles, so such as planets and rigid bodies. Whereas however, the microscopic particles which show wave particle duality, they do not obey Newtonian dynamics. So this is the basis for studying elementary quantum mechanics. And next we understood about that the classical mechanics does not provide satisfactory explanation for black body radiation, photoelectric effect, atomic and molecular spectra and heat capacities of solids. Okay. And then we took the first phenomenon, that is black body radiation, and we understood what is meant by a black body. A perfectly black body is a body which completely absorbs the radiant energy. Okay. And next we understood that it is not only a perfect absorber, but also a perfect emitter of radiation. Okay. And next we conducted or we understood how to carry out a perfect black body experiment, that is a perfect black body which was a hollow double walled metallic sphere, as we discussed in our previous class. And what we did, so we made incident radiation to pass through the hole which was called as H through this hole. So what we did, we made incident radiation to pass inside this hollow double walled tube, and here we absorbed that the radiation which has been fallen on this hole, it had repeated reflections inside the enclosure, and the radiation which were emerging from the small hole of such a hollow enclosure was known as black body radiation. Okay. So this is where we stopped in our last class, and in this session I am going to explain you about the spectral distribution of black body radiation. Okay, so this is the continued part of black body radiation. So how the spectral distribution is going to be absorbed, observed in case of black body radiation. So, the energy emitted by a black body at any temperature, it does not consist only one frequency. So, if we observe this diagram or a figure which shows the distribution of energy in spectrum of a black body. So, here we can observe, so there is a number of frequencies at which the radiation is emitted by a black body. Okay, so that means so here the energy which is emitted by a black body at any temperature, it does not consist of one single frequency having radiation, whereas so the distribution of energy among different wavelengths of the black body spectrum is shown in this figure as we see. So, here these are the different temperature 2000 Kelvin, 1750 Kelvin, 1500 Kelvin, 1250 Kelvin. So, like this irrespective of temperatures we are going to observe various different peaks which depends upon the peak wavelength, and it shows the different frequencies of radiations which has been emitted through the black body radiations. Okay. And next what we have to understand is about the characteristics of the curves. So, there are mainly 4 characteristics of the curves which we observe in spectral distribution of black body radiation. So, the first one is for each temperature, that means so here there is a variance of temperature. If you observe this figure clearly, so here different temperatures of peaks have been obtained. That means so the intensity curve for each temperature is observed in this figure. As I said, so there is a peak which corresponds to 2000 Kelvin, there is a peak which corresponds to 1750 Kelvin, and there is a peak which corresponds to 1500 and 1250 Kelvin respectively. Okay. So, in this way for each temperature, so there is a lambda max at which the energy radiation is maximum. Okay. So, for each temperature, so this is the lambda max, that means so it reaches this peak wavelength at 2000 Kelvin temperature. So, for each temperature, so there is a wavelength which we call as lambda max at which the energy radiated is maximum, and it is the maximum energy radiated is symbolically represented as Em, and the wavelength, that is lambda max is represented in terms of wavelength. And the second characteristic of the curve is so with the increase in temperature T. Okay, so temperature is always symbolically represented by capital letter T, that you know. Okay, so with the increase in temperature T, the maximum, that is Em, increases or shifts higher, but towards the lower wavelength. Okay. So, what does it means? So, with the increase in temperature, the maximum Em, so Em means so the energy radiated in the maximum shifts higher, but towards the lower wavelength. That means, so with the increase in temperature, that is Em, as the Em increases, but the corresponding wavelength decreases, that is lambda max is going to get decreased. Okay. So, this is one characteristic of the curves which are observed in the black body radiation. And the third characteristic feature is the area under the curve for a particular T temperature gives the total energy emitted by the black body per unit area per second for the complete spectrum. Okay. So, that means so here we are going to consider the area of the spectrum also. So, what does the information, the area of the spectrum is going to give? Area means so what space is observed below the peak. So, that area of the curve for a particular temperature, it gives us the information about the total energy emitted by the black body per unit area per second for the complete spectrum. And the fourth is, so the area under the curve increases with increase in temperature, and it is found that the area is proportional to the fourth power of the absolute temperature, and this concept, that is the area which is proportional to the fourth power of the absolute temperature, is called as Stefan Boltzmann's law. Okay, so you need not to worry much about what is Stefan Boltzmann's law. Just if you understand that the area which is proportional to the fourth power of the absolute temperature, so that is called as Stefan Boltzmann's law. Okay, and next is what are the reasons for failure of classical mechanics to explain the spectral distribution of the black body radiation? Okay. So, classical mechanics failed to explain the complete distribution of the black body radiation. Later, Planck was able to provide explanation for the complete distribution of the black body radiation on the basis of his theory of emission and absorption of energy in quantas. Okay. So, the Planck's quantum theory of radiation, so this was first discovered in the year 19,000. So, by Max Planck. Okay. So, he is Max Planck, he is behind the quantum theory of radiation. Okay. So, here we mainly study about Einstein's theory of mechanics and Planck's theory of mechanics. So, Planck's theory of mechanics is called as quantum theory of radiation, and Einstein's mechanics is called as classical mechanics of motion. Okay. So, according to this theory, that means according to the Planck's quantum theory of radiation, the oscillator of the black body cannot have any amount of energy, but it can have only a discrete amount of energies depending upon the frequency of the oscillator. Okay. So, this is what the concepts differ from Einstein's concept to the Planck's concept. Okay. So, as I said, Newton, that is Isaac Newton, so he called that the energy which is emitted or absorbed is in a continuous manner. Okay. So, Isaac Newton, where we discuss about the classical mechanics or Newtonian mechanics, so he assumed that the energy is emitted or absorbed in a continuous manner. Okay. But what Planck observed is or what the quantum mechanics says is that emission or absorption of energy, it takes place in a discontinuous manner in the form of packets of energy, which is called as quanta. So, this concept was given by Max Planck. So, that is in the year 19,000. So, that is what I was saying. So, according to the Planck's quantum theory of radiation, so in this the black body cannot have any amount of energy, but it can have only a discrete amount of energies depending upon the frequency of the oscillator. Okay. So, oscillator is nothing but it is a device which is used for the generation of oscillatory electric currents. Okay. So, this is how Planck's quantum theory overcome the failure of classical mechanics, which was failed to explain the spectral distribution of black body radiation. So, what are the postulates of Planck's quantum theory of radiation? So, he mainly gave three postulates. We classify the postulates of Planck's quantum theory of radiation into mainly three points. That is, so the first point is radiant energy is emitted or absorbed discontinuously, right. So, this is what I said according to Sir Isaac Newton. So, the radiant energy is in the continuous manner, whereas according to the Planck's theory, or the first postulate of Planck says that Radiant energy is emitted or absorbed discontinuously in the form of tiny bundles of energy known as quanta. So, this is what I explained in my previous class. So, the main description or the difference between Isaac Newton and Max Planck is this. So, Newton says that energy is a continuous wave, it is like a continuous manner, whereas Planck says so the energy or the radiant energy is discontinuous. It is in the form of tiny bundles of energy. Those tiny bundles of energy is called as quanta. And the next postulate is, so each quantum is associated with the definite amount of energy E. Okay, definite amount of energy, it is measured in terms of E. So, E is equals to h nu, so that we know. Okay, so E is equals to h nu, where h is Planck's constant and nu is the frequency and E is the energy. Okay, so E is equals to h nu. So, here E is the energy which is measured in terms of joules. Okay, so we are going to measure the energy in terms of joules, whereas nu is the frequency, frequency is measured in terms of Siemens inverse. Okay, and h is Planck's constant and which has the value of 6.626 into 10 raised to minus 34 joules per second. So, in this way, so the second postulate of Planck's quantum theory gives us the information about how much of energy does one quanta is going to carry. So, one quantum is associated with this much of energy, that is E is equals to h nu. So, the energy is equals to the Planck's constant, that is 6.626 into 10 raised to minus 34 joules per second, into the frequency which is measured in terms of Siemens inverse. Okay. So, this is the second postulate of Planck's quantum theory. And the third postulate is a body can emit or absorb energy only in whole number multiples of quantum. Okay, so that is a whole number multiples means so it can absorb energy as h nu, 2 h nu, 3 h nu, and it goes on up to n h nu. It is not like even number multiples or odd number multiples. So, a body can emit or absorb energy only in terms of whole number multiples of quantum. So, considering all these postulates or the observations what Max Planck did, so he gave or Planck gave the following expression for the energy which has been radiated by a black body corresponding to the wavelength lambda, that is E lambda. So, E lambda means it is the energy which has been radiated by a black body corresponding to the wavelength lambda. So, that is why I am representing it as E lambda, which is equals to 8 pi h c divided by lambda to the power 5 into 1 divided by E h c divided by lambda k t minus 1. So, this is a mathematical expression which was given based on the observations or the postulates of Planck's quantum theory of radiation, where this expression gives us the energy radiated by a black body corresponding to the wavelength lambda, and this equation adequately accounts for the black body radiation curves. Okay. So, this is how the failures of classical mechanics to explain the spectral distribution of the black body radiations were overcome by Max Planck by his quantum theory of radiation, which was discovered in the year 19,000, and he put forward the theory which was called as quantum theory of radiation, and considering the three postulates what I have just explained to you. So, Planck deduced or he gave an expression for the energy radiated by a black body which corresponded to certain wavelength. Based on that, he gave an equation, that is mathematical expression, that adequately accepted or it gave a justification for the black body radiation curves which were absorbed in the spectral distribution of black body radiation. Okay. So, this is all about Planck's quantum theory of radiation. And our next part of discussion or explanation is about heat capacity of solids. So, we all have studied what is heat capacity in second year BSc classes, I think that too, especially while studying thermodynamics. So, definitely we have studied heat capacities, that is molar heat capacity, which we call as C. Okay, molar heat capacity at constant volume was called as the CV, and molar heat capacity at constant temperature which was called as the CT. Okay, so all these were all these are familiar, you have already studied in second BSc classes. So, what is meant by heat capacity of solids? So, heat capacity is the solid's ability to absorb and retain heat. Each and every solid object or particle or substance, it has got certain amount of capacity to absorb and retain that heat for some time. Okay. Say for example, if you heat any solid object, so then the temperature is going to increase, you cannot touch it, you have to keep it aside for some time, so that the temperature has to be slowed down or decreased to room temperature. Okay. So, how much time it takes, so how much heat energy does that solid absorbs, and how far or how long that heat energy has been retained by that solid object is defined as heat capacity of solids. So, heat capacity between any two temperatures is defined as the quantity of heat required to rise the temperature of the system from lower to higher temperature divided by the temperature difference. Okay. In this way, we are going to define the heat capacity of a solid, that is heat capacity of a solid is measured by considering the two temperatures of a quantity of heat which is required to rise the temperature of the system from lower to higher temperature, which is divided by the temperature difference. So, the heat required to increase the temperature of the system by 1 degree is the heat capacity of the solid. So, heat capacity can be represented as C is equals to dQ. dQ means here there is a difference in the temperature. Okay. So, and the Q is the quantity of the heat which has been required to rise the temperature divided by the temperature difference. So, that is why since we are taking temperature differences, I am representing it in terms of dT, where dT means temperature difference. So, heat capacity at constant volume, as I said, heat capacity at constant volume, which is called as CV, is equals to dU divided by dt, where dU is the change in internal energy. This also you have studied in thermodynamics in second year. U is a symbol which is used to represent the internal energy. Each and every substance or molecule or object, it has got its own internal energy due to the vibrational energy, rotational energy, kinetic energy and potential energy. All these energies which are present in the substance, they all constitute to form energy, which is collectively called as internal energy of an object or substance. So, here heat capacity at constant volume, which is expressed as CV is equals to dU divided by dt. In this equation, dU is the change in internal energy and dt is the change in temperature, as I said. Okay. So, now, so what are the observations or spectral observations made with the help of studying heat capacity of solids? So, this figure gives us the information about variation of heat capacity with temperature for some elements. So, what are the elements? So, here diamond, so this is the peak which corresponds to the variation of heat with the temperature for diamond, and this is for copper and this is for silver. So, by looking at this figure or this graph, what are the informations we are going to get? So, the first one is so the heat capacity of all monoatomic solids, that is we can collectively call them as metals, is normally expected to be a constant which is equal to 3R. Okay. So, we are going to observe that, so the heat capacity of all the metals is normally expected to be a constant which will be equal to 3R. However, experimentally it is true only at higher temperatures, but not in low temperatures. So, this heat capacity which will be normal and which is a constant and expected to be a 3R. So, this is experimentally true only at higher temperature. At low temperatures, what happens then? At low temperature, the value is found to be lower than 3R, and the value sometimes approaches to 0 as the temperature tends to 0. Okay. So, by looking at this graph, so this is the serious observations what was made. So, in low temperatures sometimes what happens is, so the value of monoatomic solids, that is heat capacity of monoatomic solids, it is found to be lower than 3R, and sometimes the value also approaches 0 as the temperature T tends to 0. So, this is what the variation of molar heat capacity of few elements with temperature is shown in this figure. So, how we are going to account for this? What explanation we can give based on the quantum mechanics what we have what we are studying now? So, the quantum mechanics helps us to explain this concept, that is variation of heat capacity with temperature for some elements. It says that a monoatomic solid can be considered as a collection of oscillators each having 3 vibrational degrees of freedom. That means it has got 3 vibrational degrees of freedom, each monoatomic solids. So, here the example what we have taken is, so the diamond or the silicon or the copper or the silver. So, these have 3 vibrational degrees of freedom. So, using the concepts of Planck's quantum theory, so Einstein gave the following formula for heat capacity of solids at constant volume. So, here we have to keep it in mind that all the monoatomic solids, it has got 3 vibrational energy. Based on this, Einstein gave this equation or formula to calculate the heat capacity of solids at constant volume. So, that is why CV means heat capacity of solids at constant volume is equals to, so du divided by dt or delta U divided by delta T at constant volume is equals to, so 3 NAK into h nu naught divided by kT to the whole square into E h nu naught divided by kT divided by E h nu naught divided by kT minus 1 to the whole square. So, this is quite a big equation, and you have to practice this equation by writing it again and again in repeated terms. Okay. So, it is important from the exam point of view. So, this was the equation which was given by Einstein by using the concepts of Planck's quantum theory. So, this helped to calculate the heat capacity of monoatomic solids. So, even when the temperature tends to 0 or approaches to 0. Further, this second equation, this is nothing but this is the simplified form of this above equation. Okay. So, Cv, that is heat capacity of solids at constant volume, is equals to 3R. So, here, so they have represented NAK in terms of R. I have called it as R, which is equals to NAK, and rest of the things are same. Okay. So, here another observations what we have to make is when the temperature is very large, So then h nu naught divided by kT, where here K is called as Boltzmann's constant, T is called as temperature, h is called as Planck's constant and nu naught is the frequency. Okay. So here when the temperature is very high, then h nu naught divided by kT will be very small compared to 1 and hence Cv becomes equal to 3R, right. So this is what we observed here. So here at higher temperature or normally the heat capacity of all monatomic solids is expected to be constant, which is equals to 3R, whereas at lower temperature the value is found to be lower than 3R. Okay. So this is what, when there is higher temperature, then definitely this h nu naught divided by kT will be very small compared to 1 and hence Cv becomes equal to 3R, or else it is nothing but Cv is approximately equal to 3 NkB, which is equals to 3R. And the next is at extremely low temperatures. So here the limit of h nu naught divided by kT will be greater than 1 and hence Cv decreases with decrease in temperature. So these are the two conditions where the heat capacity of solids is understood by considering at higher temperature what will be the value of Cv and at extremely low temperature, so what will be the value of Cv, that is Cv decreases with the decrease in temperature. This was observed. As the temperature reaches 0, the exponential portion of the above equation goes to 0 and therefore Cv also approaches 0. So this supports the experimental observation that as temperature approaches 0, the heat capacity of the solid decreases to 0. Okay. So this is what we understood in the introduction part of heat capacities of solids. So as I said, so there at lower temperature the value is found to be lower than 3R and the value approaches 0 as temperature T tends to 0. So by understanding, so these two equations which were given by Einstein to study the heat capacities of solids at constant volume using the concepts of Planck's quantum theory, so it is accepted that the experimental observation that has temperature approaches 0, then obviously or must and should the heat capacity of the solid also tends to decrease to 0. So in this way the quantum mechanics or the postulates of Planck's quantum theory helped us to understand the heat capacity of solids in a better way than compared to classical mechanics. So the classical mechanics failed to explain the heat capacity of solids, whereas by considering the Planck's quantum theory, by understanding the postulates of Planck's quantum theory, it made us easier to understand the heat capacity of solids in a better way by using or considering the Einstein's equation which he gave for the heat capacity of solids at a constant volume. Okay. So I am going to stop it here and in my next class we will see what is meant by photoelectric effect and how the quantum theory explains photoelectric effect considering the failure of classical theory to explain photoelectric effect. Okay. So this is much interesting than black body radiation and heat capacities of solids. So here we will get a clear picture what are the reasons for failure of classical theory to explain photoelectric effect and how well the explanation is given by considering the quantum theory to give justification to photoelectric effect. Okay. So we will discuss this in my next class. I am going to stop it here. Thank you my dear students.